Imagine looking up at the night sky, really gazing at the stars and wondering, are we actually alone in this huge, quiet universe?
Mm.
But then you get this little nagging thought. Maybe, just maybe, we're already shouting our presence across the galaxy, like without even meaning to.
Yeah, like a cosmic accident.
Exactly. Sending out this constant, hello, anyone home signal every single day.
Yeah.
And while we're busy looking outwards, thinking about talking to aliens, what about the messages our own planet is sending us?
Right here, right now.
Urgent messages,
Yeah.
about its health, its future.
Yeah.
Our future, really.
It's quite a contrast, isn't it? That huge cosmic scale versus the very real, very immediate pressures we're facing right here on Earth.
Definitely.
And both are unfolding so fast, it's hard to keep up, demands our attention in totally different ways.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
We're here to sift through, a whole stack of really compelling stuff. The latest research, news reports, our own notes. Basically cut through all the noise and focus on what really matters.
Yeah, try and connect the dots.
Exactly. Our mission is to unpack some, frankly, pretty significant, sometimes startling developments. We're looking at science, space, tech, crucial environmental efforts, and of course the big shifts in geopolitics.
It's a lot to cover.
It is. But we want to highlight the surprising bits, help you see how it all links together, and give you that shortcut to feeling really informed without, feeling totally swamped.
You've shared some amazing material today, so let's just jump right in. Cosmic wonders first.
Let's do it. To the stars. #I, Cosmic Wonders and our Interstellar Dilemma.
Okay, so let's start our journey way out there, not just beyond the clouds, like really beyond our solar system. Because the James Webb Space Telescope, the JWST,
Yep, the JWST, it keeps delivering.
it really does. It's just made a discovery that has, the whole scientific community buzzing about life beyond Earth. We're talking about an exoplanet, K2-18b. K2-18b.
Now, for those keeping track at home, this isn't just any old distant planet, right? What makes this one, this discovery, so interesting?
You're right. It's definitely not just any random exoplanet. K2-18b is, it's a planet outside our solar system, obviously. It's about 124 light years away, over in the constellation Leo.
Okay, 124 light years. That's far, but almost close in cosmic terms.
Relatively speaking, yeah. What got people excited initially was its classification, and it's a sub-Neptune.
A sub-Neptune.
Yeah, it's this fascinating category. Bigger than Earth, smaller than Neptune. They often have these really thick hydrogen-helium atmospheres. But the real excitement, the recent stuff from JWST, is about specific chemicals found in its atmosphere.
And these aren't just any chemicals, are they? We're talking dimethyl sulfide, DMS, among other things.
Exactly. Dimethyl sulfide, DMS.
So why is DMS the headline grabber here when we're talking alien life?
Well, that's the thing. The DMS detection really set the scientific world on fire, so to speak, because here on Earth, DMS is overwhelmingly produced by life, biological processes.
Like from the ocean.
Precisely. Think about that smell of the sea. A lot of that is DMS. It's released by marine phytoplankton, tiny ocean plants, as part of just living. So finding a chemical that's so strongly linked to life here, but finding it 124 light years away, it's like a potential biosignature, a really strong hint. Like finding a very specific footprint in the cosmic sand,
A cosmic chemical fingerprint. Wow, okay. But it wasn't just DMS, right? The Webb telescope found other things, too, that kind of build a bigger picture.
That's right. Very important point. JWST also detected methane and carbon dioxide in K2-18b's atmosphere.
Okay. Methane and CO2. Why is that combo significant?
Because that combination points towards an environment that could potentially be habitable. And more than that, the presence of those gases, along with what we know about the planet's size and density, it's led scientists to speculate about a possible subsurface ocean.
An ocean.
Yeah.
Under the atmosphere.
Potentially, yeah. Remember, K2-18b is pretty hefty, about 8.6 times the mass of Earth. And its sub-Neptune status makes it a prime candidate for being what we call a Hyson world.
Hyson. Okay, that's a new one on me. What does that mean, and why is it important here?
Good question. Hyson is just a mashup of hydrogen and ocean.
Makes sense.
It refers to these planets that likely have a really thick hydrogen-rich atmosphere, but underneath that, potentially a deep, maybe even planet-wide ocean of liquid water.
Wow.
See, for ages, the search for life was super focused on finding Earth-like planets. Rocky worlds, in the right temperature zone, water on the surface.
The Goldilocks zone.
Exactly. But this Hycean concept, it totally blows open the types of planets we think might be habitable. These planets could exist in much wider orbits, meaning life could potentially pop up in conditions really different from ours.
So K2-18b, if it has this ocean under a hydrogen sky, it could be a prime example.
It could be, yes. It suggests life might not need a rocky planet like Earth. Maybe these Hycean worlds are where it's at, or at least another place it could be.
So this isn't just finding one potential sign of life. It's actually making us rethink where life could even exist.
Fundamentally, yes.
So how does all this together, the DMS, the methane, CO2, this possible Hycean ocean world, how does it challenge our old ideas about, like, when life started in the universe and where it might be?
Well, that's the profound part. It really pushes back against some long-held assumptions. For decades, a lot of astrobiology kind of assumed life needed conditions very similar to early Earth. Rocky planet, specific chemistry, carbon-based, water-dependent.
Our bias, basically.
Exactly.
An Earth analog bias. K2-18b suggests maybe not. Maybe complex biological activity could arise much earlier in the universe's history and in these environments that are totally alien compared to Earth.
So if these Hycean worlds are actually more common than rocky Earth-like planets,
then the odds of life being out there just go up, potentially way up. And we're seeing other hints too, right? Like finding lots of oxygen in one of the really early galaxies. That also suggests the building blocks for life, maybe life itself, appeared much sooner than our models thought. It sort of chips away at the idea that Earth is uniquely special.
It definitely forces us to reconsider humanity's place, or maybe lack of unique place, in the cosmos. It raises some pretty big questions.
Huge questions. But, okay, science always comes with caveats, right?
Yeah.
Especially for something this massive. How certain are scientists about this? Is it definitely life? What's the catch?
Right, and this is absolutely crucial. Scientific rigor is paramount here. While finding DMS is incredibly exciting, scientists are being very, very careful. It is not yet definitive proof of life.
Okay, not yet.
There's intense debate happening right now. People are scrutinizing the data, questioning the methods, asking if we're sure we're interpreting this potential biosignature correctly.
So what's the main worry? Could something else make DMS out there?
That's the key challenge. Could some weird, non-biological process under extreme alien conditions, maybe super high pressures, unique geology, could that produce DMS? We have to rule out those false positives.
Right. Don't want to jump the gun.
Absolutely not. So the next steps are critical. More observations with JWST, using its amazing spectroscopy tools to look for other signs that correlate. Or maybe watch how the atmosphere changes over time.
Look for multiple lines of evidence.
Exactly. Not just relying on one chemical, no matter how tempting. It needs caution, tons of peer review, and a really systematic process to rule out every other possibility before anyone claims proof of alien life.
So we're on the edge of our seats, but yeah, maybe hold off on ordering the welcome basket just yet.
Probably wise. Light chuckle.
Which actually leads perfectly into this next, maybe slightly unsettling question. While we're peering out, trying to find them, could we accidentally be broadcasting our presence, telling the universe, here we are, whether we mean to or not?
It really looks that way, yes. Recent research, coming out in journals and discussed by places like NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, it strongly suggests Earth is inadvertently signaling its location.
Not like intentionally sending messages.
No, not like the Arecibo message from the 70s. This is about, well, our daily technological noise. Think about the signals we beam out for deep space communication, talking to probes near Mars, or the Voyagers way out there.
Okay.
And also, powerful radar systems, civilian airports pinging planes, military radar scanning the skies. All that electromagnetic energy doesn't just stop. It travels outwards.
For how far?
Hundreds of light years, potentially, radiating out into the galaxy.
So every time a plane lands safely, thanks to air traffic control or, some military radar does its thing, we're basically a blinking lighthouse in the cosmic ocean. That's kind of unnerving.
Light chuckle. It's a pretty good analogy.
How likely is it that someone or something could actually pick up these signals?
Yeah.
And what would make them noticeable?
Well, the detection likelihood depends on a few things. If some extraterrestrial observers happen to be looking in our direction at the right time and maybe aligned with our transmissions, their chances go up. And what makes them stand out isn't just the power, but the structure. These signals aren't random cosmic static, especially things like military radar. They have very specific complex patterns. They look synthetic. artificial, clearly not natural.
Assuming they have the tech to even notice.
Oh, absolutely. It would require advanced technology on their end, something probably far beyond our current SETI search for extraterrestrial intelligence capabilities. Think massive listening arrays, powerful computers to sift our signals from all the natural background noise of the universe.
This just throws the Fermi paradox into even sharper relief, doesn't it? The whole if space is teeming with life, where is everybody question. If we're making this much accidental noise.
Shouldn't older, more advanced civilizations be making even more noise? Or shouldn't we have picked up their accidental broadcasts by now? It adds another layer to the puzzle.
Yeah.
The Copernican principle tells us Earth probably isn't unique. Statistically, there should be others. But silence, so our accidental signals, they kind of challenge some of the proposed solutions to the paradox.
Like the idea that everyone's hiding, or that there's some great filter stopping civilizations from getting advanced enough to broadcast.
Exactly. Or the zoo hypothesis that maybe they are out there, but they're deliberately not contacting us, just observing. If we're accidentally yelling, "We're here," it makes those scenarios a bit more complicated.
Which leads to the really tricky part, the ethics. What are the implications of revealing our location, even by accident? Should we be trying to signal deliberately, like some active SETI projects want to do, or should we maybe try to be quieter?
That's the million-dollar or maybe trillion-dollar question, isn't it? It's a huge ethical debate with potentially massive consequences.
Yeah, no kidding.
On one side, you have people arguing that sending intentional messages like Arecibo or newer attempts is just human nature. It's curiosity, exploration, the scientific drive. Maybe the benefits of contact, shared knowledge, understanding our place outweigh any risks.
The optimistic view.
Right. But then there's the other side, the more cautious, maybe even fearful perspective. People like Stephen Hawking famously warned against actively trying to make contact.
Why? What was his reasoning?
He drew parallels to encounters here on Earth between technologically advanced societies and less advanced ones. Those often didn't end well for the less advanced group. We just don't know anything about potential ETs, their intentions, their capabilities, their biology. Is it wise to draw attention to ourselves before we understand the risks?
So experts are now saying we need to think about this more strategically, like actually evaluate all the signals we're sending out.
Yes. There are calls for a global discussion, a strategic evaluation of our current broadcasting habits, both intentional and accidental. We need a more deliberate, thoughtful approach to what we're shouting into the void. It's that classic tension, our deep urge to explore versus the need for caution, maybe even self-preservation on a cosmic scale.
Wow, okay. Searching for life while maybe accidentally announcing our own. Curiosity versus caution. That is a lot to think about. What an incredible start. So from the huge questions of space, let's zoom right back into the tools we're building here on Earth. Tools like artificial intelligence, AI, which might just be shaping our future as much as any alien signal. Okay, AI. Let's unpack this, starting with a tech giant most of us use every day, Apple. There's some serious buzz about Siri, their voice assistant, potentially getting a major upgrade, and it involves teaming up with Google, specifically Google's Gemini AI.
That's the report, yeah. Apple is apparently in serious talks to integrate Google's Gemini AI technology right into Siri.
Which, let's be honest, Siri could probably use. It feels like it's lagged behind Amazon's Alexa or Google Assistant for a while now.
That's definitely been the criticism. Siri was groundbreaking back in 2011 when it launched with the iPhone 4S, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, rivals have arguably pulled ahead in things like understanding natural language, holding a conversation, remembering context. A lot of users find Siri, well, a bit rigid, misunderstands complex requests sometimes.
Oh, I've been there. You ask something slightly complicated and it just gives you web search results. Like Chuckle. It's frustrating.
Chuckles, exactly.
So Apple did announce its own Apple Intelligence with iOS 18 recently. That sounded promising, with personalized stuff, on-device processing. But this potential Gemini deal suggests maybe that wasn't enough. They needed something even bigger.
It seems that way. Apple Intelligence was definitely a big step, focusing on privacy, personalization, integrating things like Genmoji and writing tools. But these talks with Google, they suggest Apple recognizes they need a really powerful, versatile, maybe even more cutting-edge large language model, or LLM, to truly compete head-to-head right now.
And Google's Gemini is considered top tier.
It's certainly seen as one of the leaders, yeah. Especially its multimodal capabilities, meaning it can understand and work with text, code, audio, images, video. That's a big deal.
So the goal is to make Siri smarter, more conversational.
Pretty much. Integrating Gemini could dramatically boost Siri's core abilities. Make interactions feel much more natural, less robotic. Allow Siri to understand context better, handle more complex tasks, maybe integrate more deeply with other apps beyond just basic commands.
Like a proper conversation instead of just question answer.
Hopefully, yes. More nuanced personalization, complex query processing,
Yeah.
a much wider range of things it could actually do.
So if this actually happens, Siri gets a Gemini brain boost.
Okay.
What does that mean for the rest of the AI assistant world? Does this shake things up?
Mhm.
But what about privacy? Apple and Google working that closely.
Oh, it could absolutely reshape the competitive landscape. If Apple pulls this off successfully, it doesn't just boost Siri, it could change what you, the user, expect from an AI assistant. It might make AI feel much more seamlessly integrated into your daily life. But yeah, the privacy question is huge. Apple has built its whole brand around privacy, often positioning itself against Google's data-hungry model.
Right. What happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone.
Exactly. So how would user data be handled if Siri is partly powered by Google's AI? That's going to be under intense scrutiny. Presumably, any deal would involve super strict privacy rules, lots of on-device processing like Apple Intelligence already uses. But still, the optics of those two giants collaborating on core AI, it'll definitely spark debate among privacy watchers. It's a big strategic gamble driven by the need to catch up and optimize fast.
Fascinating. Okay, from strategic partnerships to, well, something much more forceful. Let's talk about Coinbase, the big cryptocurrency exchange. Their CEO, Brian Armstrong, apparently made a really bold move recently, an AI or be fired mandate. That sounds intense.
It was definitely intense, yeah, and very controversial. It sent shockwaves through the tech world. Brian Armstrong reportedly dismissed some engineers who weren't adopting AI tools quickly enough into their workflow.
Dismiss them, just like that.
Apparently so. The mandate was pretty aggressive. Within a specific short time frame, something like 50% of coding tasks needed to be AI generated. He even called an urgent Saturday meeting for engineers seen as dragging their feet. The message was crystal clear. Get on board with AI fast or you're out.
Wow. 50% of coding done by AI. That's a massive change for how software engineers work almost overnight. Is this just a Coinbase thing, or is this part of a bigger trend?
It definitely reflects a broader and frankly accelerating trend, especially in Silicon Valley and the wider tech industry. Companies are pushing hard for rapid AI adoption. They see it as essential for staying competitive, boosting efficiency, driving innovation.
So it's not just Armstrong.
No, leaders at Google, Microsoft, many others are pushing similar agendas. Get faster, build more, use AI to do it. Armstrong himself acknowledged AI isn't perfect yet, especially for sensitive financial systems where mistakes are costly.
Right, you need accuracy there.
Absolutely. But he still framed it as totally necessary for Coinbase's future, basically aligning with that industry drumbeat, embrace AI or get left behind.
Okay, but this obviously sparks a massive debate, right? Efficiency versus, well, human jobs and quality. What's the core tension here?
The core tension is exactly that, balancing the push for automation and efficiency with the need for human oversight, judgment, and maybe even creativity. Critics raise serious concerns. Will this lead to mass layoffs for engineers? Will relying so heavily on AI erode deep coding expertise? Could AI introduce subtle bugs, biases, or security flaws that humans might catch but AI misses?
Valid concern.
Very valid. On the other side, proponents like Armstrong argue this frees up human engineers from the boring, repetitive stuff writing boilerplate code, for example.
So humans do the interesting work.
That's the optimistic view, yeah. That human roles will change, not just disappear. Engineers might focus more on high-level system design, complex problem-solving, architecting solutions, training the AI models, or, critically, providing that ethical oversight and security auditing for the AI-generated code.
So working with AI, not being replaced by it.
Ideally, it's about adapting skills to leverage AI as a powerful tool rather than seeing it purely as a threat. But it's a transition that's clearly causing friction and anxiety.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, speaking of ethical tangles and AI's impact, let's talk about the creative world, specifically music. There's this really disturbing trend popping up called AI slop. It sounds unpleasant. What is it?
It is unpleasant and deeply concerning for artists. Basically, we're seeing AI-generated songs, often pretty low quality, musically generic, just soulless, being uploaded to streaming platforms.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. They're being published under the names of real established artists, sometimes even mimicking their vocal style or sound, but completely without their permission or knowledge.
So, like, you could find a fake new song by your favorite band generated by AI, on Spotify.
Potentially, yes. Imagine being that artist, logging on and finding an entire album attributed to you that you had nothing to do with, filled with this slop. It's happening.
That's horrifying. It misleads fans, messes with the artist's actual work.
Exactly. Fans might think it's a real release, maybe even pay for it. It dilutes the artist's genuine catalog, damages their reputation, undermines their creative legacy. It's a real problem.
It must be throwing up huge legal and ethical flags,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially in music where authenticity is everything.
Oh, absolutely. It hits right at the core questions of copyright, intellectual property, and even identity in the age of AI. Who owns an AI song that deliberately copies an artist's style or uses a synthesized version of their voice without consent? Is just mimicking a style legally problematic?
Tricky questions.
Very. And then there's the responsibility of the platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, etc. What's their role in policing this? Should they be doing more to verify who's uploading what, to make sure artists have actually consented?
Yeah, should they be gatekeepers?
It's a massive challenge. The lines are blurring so fast between real human creation and AI generation. It poses a serious threat to artists' control over their own work and image, and frankly, to the economics of the music industry. We might need entirely new legal frameworks to deal with this.
Wow, okay. AI is definitely complicated. Now, from the virtual world to something very concrete, maybe even more surprising, a big move by the U.S. government. The Trump administration is reportedly talking about buying a stake, a 10% equity stake, in Intel.
Yes, that's the report. Discussions are apparently underway for the U.S. government to acquire a 10% equity stake in Intel Corporation.
Intel, the chip giant. That feels unprecedented for the U.S., right?
Weird.
The government becoming a major shareholder in a huge private tech company.
It is highly unusual, yes. Truly striking. Direct government ownership stakes of that size in major private firms are exceptionally rare in the American system. You might see it in extreme crises like the 2008 auto bailout, but even then, it's usually temporary and seen as a last resort. This is different.
So what's the reasoning? Why would the government want to own a chunk of Intel rather than just, say, giving them grants or contracts?
The justification being put forward is national security and strengthening America's tech infrastructure. There's huge concern about supply chains for semiconductors, computer chips.
Yeah, the pandemic really highlighted that shortage.
Exactly. Chip shortages hit everything from cars to phones. There's also intense competition, especially from state-supported industries in places like China. Intel used to be the undisputed leader, but they've struggled lately.
They've lost ground to companies like TSMC in Taiwan and Samsung.
Right. And chip designers like NVIDIA and AMD have surged too. So the government seemingly views Intel as a vital strategic asset. Ensuring Intel is strong and producing chips domestically is seen as crucial for both economic and national security.
Okay, so it's about securing that critical domestic supply chain.
Yeah.
And there was mention of the CGPS Act. How does that fit in?
Right. The CGPS and Science Act was passed in 2022. It allocated billions in government funding, grants, and subsidies, specifically to encourage companies like Intel to build more semiconductor factories, or fabs, in the U.S.
So instead of just giving grants.
The idea being discussed, reportedly, is potentially converting some of those allocated CHIPS Act funds into equity. So the government wouldn't just be giving money, it would own a piece of the company, aligning its financial interests with Intel's success and recovery.
And there was another big investor mentioned, SoftBank.
Yes, SoftBank, the big Japanese investment group, also announced a significant investment in Intel recently. So you have this potential government stake alongside a major private institutional investor. It signals a strong belief from different angles in Intel's turnaround potential and its strategic importance. But it also shows just how much money is needed to compete at the cutting edge of chip making now.
This has to be controversial, though, especially for free market folks. Government owning part of Intel. What are the main criticisms?
Oh, absolutely controversial. Critics, especially those on the free market side of the spectrum, are raising red flags. They worry this sets a dangerous precedent.
For more government intervention.
Exactly. Increased public control over private industry. Could it stifle competition? Lead to inefficiency because government isn't agile like business? Could political factors start influencing company decisions?
Yeah, potential for political meddling.
That's a concern. It challenges those traditional American free enterprise principles where the government usually stays out of direct ownership. There's the slippery slope argument, too. Where does it stop? Could other industries deemed strategics face similar moves?
But the flip side argument is national security.
The flip side is that for certain absolutely critical sectors like advanced chip making, maybe the free market alone isn't enough to guarantee domestic capability and resilience, especially facing state-backed global competitors. So strategic, targeted government involvement, even ownership might be necessary, however controversial. It's a really fierce debate about that balance.
So AI pushing boundaries, governments stepping into industries, definitely a time of major shifts. Okay, let's pivot now. From tech and geopolitics to the health of our planet itself, starting with the oceans. All right, let's turn our focus to our planet's health, starting with the oceans. Huge news here. There's real momentum behind a major new international treaty for marine biodiversity. What's this treaty all about, and why is it so critical right now, especially for the high seas?
Yeah, this is incredibly important. It's formally called the Agreement under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction.
Chuckles. Okay, that's a mouthful.
Chuckles, it is. Thankfully, most people call it the BBNJ Agreement or just the High Seas Treaty.
The BBNJ. Got it. So what does it do?
Its goal is to protect the high seas. That's the massive two-thirds of the ocean that lies outside any single country's national waters. It's largely been like the Wild West out there, unregulated.
Wow, two-thirds of the ocean.
Huge area. The treaty was officially adopted back in June 2023, after literally decades of negotiations at the UN headquarters in New York. Now it's open for countries to sign and ratify.
And it's close to actually coming into force.
Very close. It needs 60 countries to ratify it to become international law. As of now, 52 have ratified. So only 8 more needed.
Only 8?
It could potentially enter into force as early as 2026 if that momentum continues. And it's urgent because the health of these international waters affects everyone, the whole planet. Ocean currents, climate regulation, fisheries. It's all connected.
Okay, so we're right on the edge. That's great news. What are the key things this treaty actually focuses on? And what are the hurdles to getting it fully working?
It focuses on a few core things. First, marine genetic resources, or MGRs.
Genetic resources, like DNA from deep-sea creatures?
Exactly. Think weird microbes or sponges from deep-sea vents that might hold secrets for new medicines or industrial products. The treaty aims to set up rules for accessing these resources and, crucially, sharing the benefits fairly, especially with developing nations.
Okay, benefit sharing. Makes sense. What else?
Second, mandatory environmental impact assessments, or EIAs, basically requiring studies before potentially harmful activities happen in the high seas, like deep-sea mining or maybe large-scale geoengineering projects. That's a big step for accountability.
Holding industries accountable. Good.
Third, it allows for establishing area-based management tools out there. The big one is creating marine protected areas, MPAs, in international waters, setting aside specific zones to conserve vulnerable ecosystems or critical habitats.
Like national parks, but in the middle of the ocean.
Pretty much. Now, the challenges. UN legal counsel Eleanor Hammarskjöld mentioned ongoing tough discussions about the exact rules for participation, how to fund all this, and ensuring digital access to data, especially for developing countries.
Yeah, poorer countries might struggle to participate fully.
Right. Small island developing states, SIDs, and other developing nations are pushing for flexibility, support for capacity building, and maybe a voluntary trust fund to help them engage in the science and monitoring. And everyone agrees they need a good clearinghouse mechanism, basically a central hub for sharing information and data up and running soon, by early 2026, ideally.
So what's really at stake here? What if this treaty doesn't get ratified quickly or isn't implemented effectively? What happens to the high seas?
The stakes are immense, truly immense. Failure would be devastating. This treaty is our best shot at tackling multiple crises hitting the high seas simultaneously. We're talking ocean acidification, the ocean absorbing too much CO2, changing its chemistry.
Which harms shell-building creatures.
Exactly. We're talking collapsing fish stocks due to massive industrial fishing fleets operating unsustainably out there. And of course, pollution plastics, chemicals reaching even the deepest trenches.
It's everywhere.
It is. Scientists estimate that these combined pressures threaten maybe over half of all marine species with extinction this century. Plankton, fish, whales, the whole web of life. And it's not just about the animals. The ocean drives our climate, produces oxygen, feeds billions. Letting the high seas remain largely unprotected risks pushing these vital global systems past a tipping point.
A point of no return. Scary thought. And the planet's health is so tied to our own health, isn't it? Which brings us to this next topic. The Nipah virus. This sounds really serious, partly because of how deadly it is, but also its connection to climate change.
Yes, it's a stark example of that connection. What's worrying scientists is how climate change seems to be expanding the geographical range of fruit bats.
Fruit bats, they carry the Nipah virus.
They're the main natural reservoir, yes. They carry the virus, often without getting sick themselves. But as climate change causes extreme weather, destroys habitats, raises temperatures, these bats are forced to move.
Looking for food and shelter elsewhere.
Exactly, and that movement often brings them into closer contact with human settlements and livestock like pigs. So the area where bats and people overlap grows, increasing the risk of the virus spilling over from bats to humans.
And Nipah is really deadly if it does spill over.
Frighteningly so.
Yeah.
The fatality rate can be incredibly high, reaching up to 75% in some outbreaks.
75%, wow.
It causes severe brain inflammation, encephalitis, and respiratory problems. It's primarily spread from bats through contaminated food sources. Think bat saliva or urine getting onto fruit, or famously into raw date palm sap that people collect and drink in places like Bangladesh.
Ah, okay.
We've seen major outbreaks linked to this. Malaysia, 1998, was a big one. It spread through pig farms that were likely contaminated by bats, leading to over 100 human deaths and massive pig culls. Bangladesh sees smaller, more frequent outbreaks, often tied to that contaminated date palm sap.
And climate change might make it worse, beyond just moving the bats.
There's evidence suggesting that higher temperatures might also affect how much virus the bats actually shed into the environment. So hotter conditions could mean more virus circulating, potentially increasing the risk even further. And while human-to-human transmission isn't the main driver right now, it can happen, especially in close contact, like in healthcare settings or families. Given the high fatality rate, that potential is a huge public health concern.
That is genuinely terrifying. So what's being done? Is there a vaccine? How do we prevent this?
It really underscores how linked climate, environment, and disease are. On the vaccine front, yes, clinical trials are underway for a Nipah vaccine. Researchers are using some of the same rapid development platforms that worked for COVID-19.
That's good news.
It is. But the challenge is that Nipah outbreaks are still relatively rare and sporadic, which makes large-scale vaccine testing and deployment difficult. So right now, prevention is key. And public health bodies like the World Health Organization, the WHO, emphasize environmental conservation as a primary defense.
Protecting the bats' habitats.
Right. Exactly. Protecting forests, restoring habitats, trying to keep bats healthier and further away from people and livestock. It's about reducing that contact point. Plus, promoting safer food practices like boiling date palm sap and avoiding contact with sick animals. It's a real-world example of the One Health concept, realizing that human health, animal health, and environmental health are all completely interconnected. You can't fix one without considering the others.
A powerful reminder.
Yeah.
Okay, from that creeping threat to, well, a full-blown, devastating crisis making headlines daily. Gaza, the humanitarian situation there. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called it a failure of humanity. That's incredibly strong language. What's behind that assessment? What does a famine declaration actually mean?
It's language reserved for the absolute worst situations. Guterres' failure of humanity reflects the utter desperation. We're seeing extreme food shortages, rampant malnutrition, especially hitting women and children the hardest. And when the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, that's the global authority on this, declares famine conditions, it's based on hard data.
It's not just saying people are hungry.
No, it's a technical declaration with specific thresholds. It means at least 20% of households face catastrophic lack of food, over 30% of children are suffering acute malnutrition, and crucially, at least 2 people out of every 10,000 are dying each day, specifically from starvation or related disease.
2 people per 10,000 per day. Just from starvation.
Minimum. Nutrition clinics in Gaza are reportedly completely overwhelmed. People are making desperate journeys, risking their lives just trying to find aid, like those reportedly returning from near the border area at Zikum. It is catastrophic.
Just heartbreaking. And it's not getting better, is it? It seems to be escalating. What's driving this downward spiral, especially with recent military news?
The drivers are complex and interconnected. The ongoing conflict itself, obviously, causes destruction and displacement. But critically, there's also the severe blockade restricting essential goods, food, water, medicine, fuel from entering Gaza in sufficient quantities.
The aid isn't getting through.
Not nearly enough, according to multiple aid agencies. Healthcare systems have collapsed. And adding to this horror, Israeli authorities recently announced a major military offensive targeting Gaza City, aimed at dismantling militant infrastructure.
Which means more fighting. more displacement.
Exactly. It deepens the fear and drives even more people from their homes, people already suffering unimaginable hardship, often with nowhere safe to flee to. Reports from international news agencies paint a picture of hundreds of thousands on the move, desperate for safety.
And the world's response,
Oh, wow.
or the lack of response. How are different countries and organizations reacting? There seems to be a lot of criticism and finger-pointing.
There is. It's a deeply divisive issue internationally. The UN and its agencies, UNICEF, the World Food Program, WHO, they're constantly sounding the alarm, warning about the impact on civilians, demanding aid access, protection under international law, and calling repeatedly for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire.
But is the world listening?
The response has been fractured. You see some commentators in global media outlets using very strong language, calling the famine Netanyahu's legacy, even alleging it's an intentional war crime of starvation through aid restriction.
Those are serious accusations.
Extremely serious. There are also reports and allegations from human rights groups about actions against organizations trying to provide aid or raise awareness, like the designation of Palestine Action as a terrorist group by the UK government back in July 2025, which critics say silences dissent and hinders aid efforts.
And what about major powers, like the U.S.?
Well, some new analyses point out that while the U.S. is providing some aid, its public response, especially regarding calls for a ceasefire or addressing the severity of the famine directly, has been perceived by some as muted. Meanwhile, Israel maintains its position, emphasizing its right to self-defense against militant groups operating in Gaza. It's this incredibly complex, tragic tangle of conflict, humanitarian disaster, and geopolitics, with deep divisions in how the world sees it and who holds responsibility.
A truly bleak picture, and it sounds like the calls for accountability, for more decisive action, are only getting louder. #outro.
Wow. We have covered an incredible amount of ground today. From way out in space, thinking about alien life on K218b and our own accidental cosmic messages, all the way back to Earth, the urgent need to protect our oceans, the scary link between climate change and diseases like Nipah, and the absolutely heartbreaking humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
It really highlights how interconnected everything is, doesn't it?
It really does. What strikes me is how these stories, which seem so different on the surface, space exploration, AI development, environmental treaties, geopolitical conflicts, they're all constantly weaving together, shaping our present, and absolutely defining our future.
It's just the reality of our complex world and maybe our universe. Every breakthrough, every policy choice, every crisis, it sends ripples outwards. It shows the intricate dance between technology, nature, politics, and humanity itself, from the tiniest virus to the largest galaxies. So as we keep pushing boundaries, making discoveries, building new technologies, while at the same time we're facing these huge global crises that really test our shared humanity. What does it all demand from us? Are we actually ready as a species?
Ready for the responsibility.
Yeah, the responsibility that comes with understanding our place in the cosmos, maybe not being alone, and also the responsibility of just managing life here on Earth, keeping this delicate balance from tipping over completely. It's a huge question.
It is, and it's a question that echoes through everything we talked about.
Definitely.
And ultimately, it's a question for everyone listening, for you to think about.
Yeah.
Just engaging with these complex issues, trying to understand the nuances, the connections.
Yeah.
That's the vital first step. What stood out to you from our deep dive today? What connections did you make?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We really hope this journey through today's critical stories has given you food for thought, sparked some conversations, and helped you feel a bit more connected and informed about the incredible, challenging, fascinating world we all share.
Keep asking questions.
Until next time, keep digging deeper, keep asking those questions, and please stay curious.